Welcome to the Disrupted Podcast, where we analyze and discuss technology that's changing the world as we know it. I'm your host, Chris Ebe, and with me is your co-host, Robert Smith. Today's a really exciting episode. We're going to talk about Bitcoin, and I'm really excited. So let's just jump right into it. So this week was really pivotal for Bitcoin because there were two main catalysts. First one was the highly anticipated Coinbase IPO, and the second, which is not talked about as much, was Bitcoin is now officially the fifth largest currency in terms of tradability in the world. But however, when you look into it, Bitcoin is still about 1 or 2% adopted. It's still very early. And part of the reason for this is that most people pretty much don't know what it is. I feel like most people don't understand it. So in your words, Robert, could you explain what Bitcoin really is, starting from the perspective of what money really is?
Yeah. So I feel like I need to start off every podcast or every interview we have here saying like, hey, I'm just scratching the surface of things. It's really important to do your own research.
It
Take
is. It is.
figure out exactly what it is, because if you just take the information from me, you may not get the whole picture because I'm going to explain something the best way that I know how. So as far as what money is, money was in simple terms, a way to transfer goods and services or facilitate the transfer of goods and services. Before that, we had the barter system. Like, hey, I have a cow, you have a chicken, I need chickens, you need cows, let's make a trade. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you can't really do that over long distances. So we need to have some sort of money supply. And that money supply is usually location, oftentimes the government. So the government will say, hey, we're going to give this paper currency and you're going to use that to transfer your goods and services.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much to me what money is.
Yeah, I really like how descriptive you are. Just to kind of add to what you said, you kind of touched on the evolution of money, how it was started from the barter system. And money is very critical to our society today. No one really knows how money started or where it started. We just know it's a means of storing wealth and transferring wealth. So we want to be able to transfer wealth across space and also equally as important across time.
Right.
Okay, so just to go a little bit into the evolution of money, I know different cultures had different forms of money. For instance, in East and West in East Africa back in the 1900s, salt bars were used as money to exchange value. And this kind of worked because you had to mine these salt bars. But the downside of this was, guess what happened once your salt bar drops in the water? Your money is gone, right? So similar in West Africa, I know seashells were used as money, right? Again, this got debased because the Europeans found this out and just picked a whole bunch of seashells, went over there and debased the currency. So that economy was completely destroyed. And at the same time in the Western world, and still till today, gold was used as currency. But the problem with gold is a metal. It's difficult to carry around. It is durable. It's a good store of value because you have to mine it, and it's hard to inflate. It's possible, but it's hard. But again, you couldn't carry this around, so this kind of led to paper money. So in kind of your own words, could you give us a little bit of a little bit more in depth of a walkthrough of the history of money from your perspective?
As far as the history of it,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's a pretty much you've pretty much hit the I guess the nail on the head on that one. Um, Throughout history, people were trying to find out the best way to store wealth and
Yep.
to make your transactions, and they would improve on that. You said first it was salt bars, then they moved to seashells, and now what seems to be the most or the most recent was gold.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people would have their gold not in just gold bar forms, but they would use gold coins. They
Yep.
would have jewelry, and what
Mm-hmm.
they would do is transfer that generation to generation. Because, like you said, gold was a really durable product, and to be able to transfer that from every generation, like, hey, this is something that wealth is stored, say on a family standpoint, right? So you,
Yep.
as your family grows, you say, hey, now that you're going to start a family, I'm going to give you a piece of this gold here. And you can use that to either transfer it into a cash value, something that the government has for paper money, or you can keep it and continue to transfer it from generation to generation. But that's pretty much how the history of your currency goes. Now, I don't know if we want to move on to what it's doing today, but we can talk about that
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, because it's still a chain in the evolution of money. So as of today, what is money today?
today.
Hmm.
So, yeah, you know that we've kind of moved away from the gold standard,
Yep.
and now it's kind of ones and zeros, almost digital money.
Yep.
And that money is controlled at a central location, right?
Hmm.
So your government is going to be the one who verifies all your transactions, or a central bank is going to be the one that verifies all your transactions. It verifies, if the parties that are making the transactions are in good standing, and they'll control whether or not the transaction will go through.
Hmm.
Given the 2008 crisis, kind of ran into an issue there where banks needed to be bailed out due to their missteps in the future
Yep.
or
Yep.
when they injected that currency, they didn't reach out to us. They didn't have any meetings. They just said, this is what we're going to do
Yeah.
and deal with it because we have your best interest in heart.
Yep. Yep.
Fast forward 12 years later, they did the same thing with the market crashing in 2020 due to COVID.
Yep.
That is an issue that some people don't like. And
Hmm.
that's where we have this currency called Bitcoin.
Yep.
And did you want to segue into what Bitcoin is? Or
Oh,
we have
that was the best intro into what Bitcoin is. So just go ahead. I
yeah,
like how you walked us through the evolution of money from hard money all the way to digital money, which is what I call. I see that as a transition of money moving from solid to liquid to gas state. So now we're at Bitcoin. Could you just tell us what Bitcoin is in your own words?
right. Yeah. So in 2008, when the government decided to go ahead and inject, what was it, $600 billion in currency to bail
Yep.
out all the banks. At the
Hmm.
time, it was like, oh my gosh, 600 billion, that's a lot of money.
That was a lot of money back then.
I don't
That
know how to
was.
bail. So now that it's been injected into our currency, anyone who holds cash as their main form of savings is now holding a devaluating asset, right? Because the government is going to continue to add more money supply. So whatever you have now is going to be worth less. I'm
Yep.
sure anyone from 5 years old to 95 years old understands that.
Hmm.
Good thing we have people who want to step away from that sort of system. And the best way they knew how to step away from that was to create an asset that once it hit a certain amount, you can no longer inflate it. You can no longer add any more. So you have your supply and demand. You remove
Hmm.
your supply. So now it's just a demand issue. So that is essentially what Bitcoin is. But we need to kind of peel back the layers of Bitcoin. When people spoke to me about Bitcoin 2012, 2014, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a game for World of Warcraft or something, something
Yeah.
silly. But after looking into it a bit more, I realized that Bitcoin is just a form of a technology,
Hmm.
right? Bitcoin runs on something called blockchain. All right, so let's describe what blockchain is. Well, blockchain, the best way I know to describe it is you've got this cube, and inside of this cube, if you open up the cube, you can look into it and you'll see three main parts. The first part of the cube is what it is and what it does. The second part of the cube is its physical features, like, hey, I'm cube number 1, 2, 3, or whatever. The third part of the cube is who has come before me. Well, the person who used the blockchain for Bitcoin created the very first cube, and in that cube shows our three sections: what I am, what I do. The second part is who am or what I look like, right? I'm number one, I'm the first block. And then the third part of the cube is who has come before me. Well, there's no cubes before this first cube. Now, if you want to create a second cube, you have to look into the first part of that cube. Remember the three categories? You
Hmm.
look into the first part and say, what I am, what I do. Well, there's an equation. You have to use your computer power to solve that equation. Once you solve the equation, congratulations, you get a new block. And your reward for that work is guess.
Some Bitcoins.
And
Yep.
that's as simple as that.
It
So
is
you
that
take that
simple.
coin, you do whatever you want with it. It's yours. Congratulations. So now if you want to make more, connect your computer back to your network, solve the equation for the next block. You solve the equation, now you have a third block. Again, we look into that third block, what the third block is, and hey, this is what I am, this is what I do. The second part is this is what I look like. And the third part is these are the two blocks that came before me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to continue going through those, you can use your computer to develop more blocks. However, the problem with that is it's not an easy code to crack.
Yep,
And
it's not.
right. And so if you look into that first part of that block, where is what I am, what I do, that code, as you increase the computing power, so like if you get, okay, so I'll get the biggest computer and I'll just make Bitcoins all day. Well, as you get more power, the equation gets more difficult.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. And it gets difficult to a point where no matter who's in the system, it's going to take 10 minutes to create a new block.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Did you want to jump in before I continue to discuss
Oh no,
that?
that was really good. Like going into the details of how it works on the block level. Like I said, just not to take it too technical. It uses a what they call a hashing function, a SHA-256 hashing function. So that's pretty much what it does to like you said, solving the equation to kind of decide what miner mines the next block and appends the block to the chain of blocks. And like you said, each block is connected to the previous block by the hash number of the previous block. So which literally blockchain. And like you said the middle section just contains the list of transactions. Okay. So there's a transaction pool, a bunch of, hey, I want to send some money to Robert. It goes into the mempool, transaction pool. The miner mines the block, picks a bunch of transactions, puts it in there. And like you said, every 10 minutes, the block settles. So now that we've kind of had like a high level explanation of what Bitcoin is, why is Bitcoin such a good store of value? Or is it even a good store of value? What would you say to that?
Yeah. So when you're storing value, obviously you want to make sure what you're storing is valuable, right? Like it won't break
Sure.
down over time. It
Mhm.
won't disappear. And the best way to secure a digital information is to make sure it doesn't get hacked or corrupted.
Mhm.
Well, if someone wants to go in and create Bitcoin nefariously, right? They'll use their computer to modify a certain block so they can get all the Bitcoins for the reward or whatever. The problem with that is what they'll run into is when they modify one block, they'll
Mhm.
have to modify every block before it, right? And then you have to change that information, and it gets even more difficult because remember when we said it takes 10 minutes to solve that equation?
Yep.
Every block that you change takes 10 minutes,
Yep.
okay? And every block that you change after that takes 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, okay, you have a fast computer. I can do that. But when you make that correction, you send it out to the Bitcoin mining network. Because remember, Bitcoin is decentralized.
Yep.
You can't go into the mainframe, hack that, and then say, hey, now I got all these Bitcoins. You have to hack every single person's computer who's on the mainframe or on the network. And every time you hack the block, you have to take 10 minutes to hack each block. So
Yep.
you can spend all that time trying to hack every single block on the network,
Uh-huh.
or just play along and create one more block. So
True.
that,
True.
yeah, that's the safety portion of it.
Yeah, it's really safe. I really so the guy who created Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he or she may be or they may be, so yeah, it's embedded in the code of Bitcoin. Okay, it has to be a consensus algorithm, like you said. It's decentralized. So pretty much you have to capture over 50% of the network, 51% of the network to take over the whole network. And in some situations, like someone could say, hey, okay, I can do that, right? This group of miners can do that, right? Guess what happens? It just creates a hard fork of the code. So the actual Bitcoin network still keeps going,
Right.
but the forks, if the forks stay, then they become a currency of their own. That's how we have Bitcoin SV, BSV, Bitcoin store of value, and Bitcoin Cash, which is different from the actual Bitcoin, and they trade significantly lower than the actual Bitcoin. So yeah, I feel like Bitcoin is the strongest form of money we've ever seen. It's like it's never been hacked since what 2009 when it was created till today. No matter how you try, you probably can't hack it. So I can't really think of a better store of value than Bitcoin. And like you said, the block settles every 10 minutes. So a couple weeks ago, okay, I tried sending money to family in Nigeria, right? Okay. This is how it goes through the traditional central bank system. Okay. I go to my bank, which is Regions. I bank with Regions. I go on, I say, hey, I want to send $500 to this guy. Okay. They bring out a form. I fill it out completely. It takes about 35 minutes to fill it out, right? I send it to the lady. The lady does whatever she's doing. It took 7 days for the money to get to them. 7 days. You know why? Because Regions has to update their transaction ledger, right? They have to report to the central bank of the US. They have to update theirs. Who has to report to the central bank of Nigeria? Who has to update that? And then that has to report to the bank of the guy I'm trying to send the money to. Okay. I tried the exact same transaction with Bitcoin. You want to guess how long that took?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. That is exactly how long that took. So I feel in an economy, a digital economy where money settles that fast. In 10 minutes, money is physical, well, not physical, digital money value is actually settling from one country to someone else across the globe. That opens a whole bunch of possibilities to everyone in that economy. That pretty much raises the standard of living of everyone if money can move that fast. You see, the reason why we've progressed this much as a society is because we've sped up the movement of money. If you go back in time in the horse and buggy days, where it would take you what hours to ride from Chicago to Atlanta on horses just to deliver a package. I mean days. I'm sorry, I said days. I mean days, weeks, months. But now with Bitcoin, we can do it in 10 minutes. Absolutely. And I know this is about Bitcoin, but there's even other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum that do it in 7 seconds. You see what I'm saying? So I can just picture this new world of so many where the standard of living is so high, all because money is moving so much faster than it ever has prior to this point. So I'm just amazed at how fast we're growing as a society, and I'm so excited for the future.
Yeah, one thing you want to keep in mind is people don't really understand how things change, or they don't understand exponential growth.
True.
A lot of people think things change linearly, and they just can't wrap their heads around exponential growth, and they definitely can't wrap their heads around exponential growth.
Oh yeah, they can.
That's a whole other 2-hour podcast that we can get into for that.
It is.
One of the things that I like to keep things as simple as possible. Just, hey, it's 1 + 1 is 2, right? And it's today we are changing at a really, really good rate as far as we're moving from one form of currency to another.
Yep.
I encourage you to just keep an open mind and understand that the world is changing, and do what you can to put yourself in the best position to benefit from this exponential growth or this change in the world that's coming. So I wanted to throw that out there to make sure that you don't close yourself off to potential gains. And that's what I want to.
True. I really like what you said about exponential growth, because we really can't picture exponents. We can't picture it, because you step out your front door, you take 20 steps, you probably just get to your curb, or maybe the driveway, or maybe the road, right? That's 20 linear steps. But guess what happens when you take the same 20 but exponential steps? You walk around the planet twice. Okay. That is the power of exponential growth. Okay. It just gets to a point where it just takes off. You can't even you can't bring it back. So it's powerful. And like you said, I'm so excited for this future. But going back to Bitcoin, how did the COVID crisis of last year, 2020, how did that affect Bitcoin?
That's a good one. With the COVID crisis, there was, I believe there was another catalyst that was involved that we didn't know. Well, ones in the Bitcoin community understood. Remember when we talked about every 10 minutes when you get a new block that's created? Well, in the, I guess we call it the white paper, in that paper, they talk about how many Bitcoins you get for each block that you create. Well, every 4 years, the number of Bitcoins you get drops. So
Mm-hmm.
now you are introducing scarcity.
Yep.
I
It's called the
believe that,
halving cycle.
yeah, halving cycle. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure you can explain that in much detail. But so with that happening and the COVID crisis, people started to understand that the government was taking this asset and inflating it, right? They were
Mm.
introducing trillions of dollars. I don't know if you've seen the Fed balance sheet.
Oh,
You take,
wow. Wow, that grew so much.
oh, man. Yeah, and it's so people saw that, they understood that holding their cash is no longer as valuable as it was yesterday.
True.
And they found that there's a platform that cannot be inflated once it reaches its limit. Naturally, you're going to take your assets and move them over towards something that cannot depreciate.
Yep.
And so I think that was the largest catalyst. And then you run into large movers who starts to put in, their value into Bitcoin. And
Mm.
one person sees a way and they're successful, others tend to follow in line. And I believe that's just what we have going on now as far as with the COVID crisis.
That's true. That's true. Companies like MicroStrategy, Tesla, Jack Dorsey with both Twitter and Square, PayPal, they're just adding Bitcoin to your balance sheet. And I feel it's going to continue going up. Like more and more and more companies are just going to keep adding Bitcoin onto the balance sheet. Because I read this article a couple of days ago that said we might be in a bubble. But then the article talks about how equity prices has gone up so fast. Okay. But then what it does, it goes one step further and divides the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and the Dow by the Fed balance sheet. Okay. So once you do that by the Fed's balance sheet,
Yeah.
okay, once you do that, it shows assets are falling massively. They're not even growing.
Uh,
Yeah, because once you compare, because that's how you compare. You want to compare apples to apples. Compare inflation, which is the Fed balance sheet expansion, to the growth of the Nasdaq, S&P 500, and the Dow. Okay, the only asset class that beats that was still going up relative that still went up relative to the Fed's balance sheet was Bitcoin. Okay, because it's a store of value. Okay,
right.
once the Fed was debasing the currency, the US dollar, people had to run elsewhere to find how to store value. You can't store it in bonds. Well, bonds are yielding what, less than 1% now to lock up your bonds for 30 years. That's stupid. S&P 500 is okay. I think last year was what, 16%, but still it's not beating the rate at which the Fed's balance sheet is expanding, but Bitcoin is. So I feel like we're in really crazy times now. And I feel like the modern day portfolio should look something like 20% Bitcoin, 80% Tesla, something like that, That's a modern day portfolio. But hey, this is not financial advice. Go do what you want to do. Do your due diligence and do what you want to do. But yeah, Bitcoin is a good store of value, in my opinion.
I
What
agree.
do you have to say about it?
Yeah. So if you take Bitcoin and you find a way to get all the Bitcoin and you put it in one pot, it will be worth $1 trillion.
Yep.
Gold is worth $10 trillion today, and maybe give or take a few billion, right? But essentially, it's $10 trillion. With Bitcoin, like you were saying, you can trade it across the world 10 minutes. You can safely store it in a way where you don't have to worry about like some safety deposit box. You can store it digitally. You can store it. You can actually have the keys written down. You can store it in a mountain. You can do whatever you want that you feel safe when storing that Bitcoin. Gold, it's a physical attribute. And there's only so many things that you can do with it, given the weight and its size, its volume.
True.
With that being said, I feel Bitcoin will have, if not the same or more value of gold, or it will have the same or more value of what gold is today. So that's a $10 trillion market cap. I'll let you do the math. There's 18 million Bitcoin present. If all that's worth 10 trillion, you can tell me how much one is worth. So
True.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. If you look at it, for instance, um, so a good example of this is I feel like we're completely moving towards a decentralized economy, completely decentralized. What do I mean by that? The largest taxi cab industry in the world doesn't own a single car. Okay, Uber, right? Why? To an extent, is decentralized because you and me can just get in our cars and become Uber drivers, right? Again, we still have to report to the one Uber guy, so which kind of makes it not decentralized, but everyone is now an Uber driver, more or less. The largest hotel industry, Airbnb, doesn't own a single building, right? The largest retailer, Alibaba, well, second to Amazon, but the largest pure retailer, right? Amazon does a lot more stuff than just retail, right? They don't own a single shop, you know.
Yeah, they,
So I think we're going to this. It's just crazy. We're going to this new world where everything is going to be decentralized. Okay, and money is just the last step, and the most critical, the last but the most critical in this decentralization process. So I'm just excited when I think of a world 5, 10 years from now, what it's going to look like. It's just going to be so beautiful. Gone are the days, well, the days where some guy sitting at a desk in the Fed office hitting on his keyboard Control P and printing a whole bunch of money. That is all gonna be gone. You see, thanks to Bitcoin. So I'm just excited of what the future holds for Bitcoin. I can't think of a better form of money or store of value than what Bitcoin is doing right now. It's just pure technology. Okay, it doesn't inflate like cash, which cash right now is inflating. Last year, our cash in the US inflated by 25%. Right? It's like having a bathtub with the drain unclogged, and the water just leaking at 25%. Right? Sooner or later, like if you go through the history of man, no fiat currency has ever lasted forever. They all die. Right? You talked about us being on the gold standard till 1970, where James Monroe took us off the gold standard. Okay, that dollar died. A new dollar had to be created after the gold standard. The same with the British pound. The British pound is right now the oldest currency, right? It's just 370 years old, 371 years old as of this year. Um, but however, if you look through history, all forms of currency, it has a beginning, it has an end. Okay, once you give a small number of people the power to print money, it always favors the printer and not the people holding the previously printed money, because this is an unfair advantage. The printer is just going to make himself richer because the money is going to touch him or her first. But everybody else, like you and me, we work 9 to 5s, we work hard jobs. Giving someone the power of hitting Control P on the keyboard and printing money is like giving them the power to create time. Because essentially, working a 9 to 5 job is like exchanging your time for money. Okay. When some guy in an office has the power to control P money, they essentially create time and essentially robbing us of our time. The 9 to 5 we just spend working, they rob us of that by inflating the supply. So I just think we're in a time now where all roads lead to Bitcoin. Everything points at Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin is the present, and it is the future. It is the future. So yeah. So how do you think? Again, like I said earlier, the Coinbase IPO this week was a huge catalyst for Bitcoin. Or I think it will be, at least. Maybe not right now, but in the future it will be. So based on that, and based on what you see right now going on in the crypto space and the decentralized space, what are your future predictions for Bitcoin and where it's gonna go?
Yeah, I touched on that earlier when I talked about Bitcoin and you compare it to the value of gold,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So gold is 10 times higher than what Bitcoin is.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that there will come a day in the future, can't say exactly when, but it will have that value or higher. So
I agree. I completely
Bitcoin,
agree.
but so and that's the thing. It's not, investing is not a lottery ticket.
Nah, it's not.
You don't, if you ever have that thought, you will run into problems. You're not going to win a lottery ticket. But if you want to store your assets, say you have a certain amount of savings, I would highly recommend that you look into, if it's not Bitcoin or it's some sort of cryptocurrency that uses blockchain, because again, blockchain is just a decentralized currency or a decentralized network that allows you to transact goods and or services. So it doesn't have to just be cash, but you can transact several different things through blockchain on a peer-to-peer network. So there's no third party that can come in and take what you own because they feel that you shouldn't have it.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the future, the future is bright for cryptocurrency,
Definitely.
and mainly because of the power of blockchain.
I agree. I agree completely. That's like hitting the nail right on the head. I actually think Bitcoin will not only surpass gold, it's gonna destroy gold because how I picture is, look at what Facebook did with media. Prior to Facebook, right? Facebook just made media so huge. Facebook, now YouTube is like the biggest TV provider. It absolutely destroyed cable. Okay, YouTube had. So I feel like Bitcoin is gonna do the exact same thing to gold. Okay, now YouTube is everywhere. I barely see cable anywhere. Everyone, well, not everyone. There's still gonna be people who like to hold on to what was,
Mhm.
and they never want to focus on what can be. Okay,
Right.
those people are gonna be there. But what happens eventually? Those people are probably gonna die off, and then the new generation,
They'll be
those,
back. Yeah.
yeah, they're gonna adopt Bitcoin, and I think Bitcoin will more than 10x gold. That is my prediction for the future. So, but based on your analysis of Bitcoin, what are you currently doing to set yourself up for success in this future? And how? So, what advice would you give to investors, especially those who are kind of skeptical about Bitcoin and blockchain? What advice would you give them to set them up correctly for this future we're about to transition into?
Yeah. So I'll kind of start with the Coinbase IPO.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't really understand what Coinbase is.
True.
And you can correct me, but this is, so far I've gathered that Coinbase is just a wallet where you can buy and sell cryptocurrency. So you're not just buying Bitcoin, you can buy Ethereum, you can buy the Bitcoin Cash, you can buy Dogecoin. There are several different cryptocurrencies that you can buy, but
Mm-hmm.
you use Coinbase as your main wallet. So you buy it and store it there. As far as what you can do if you want to purchase any kind of cryptocurrency, I can't tell you which one you want to choose, but I will tell you that there are certain platforms such as, I believe it's Cash App, Robinhood, PayPal, Coinbase, and what is it, BlockFi? Is that another?
Yep, BlockFi is a big one.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's other wallets that you can use to purchase those currencies. But before you make this purchase, I want you to understand that there are different rules for each wallet. Some wallets allow you to purchase your Bitcoin or your cryptocurrency, and they give you the actual physical key to that cryptocurrency. Meaning, when you buy it, it's yours, it's in your pocket. If you want to move it from wallet to wallet, there may be transaction fees, but it's essentially yours. There are other platforms that do not allow this. So when you buy on one platform, they hold your keys. And
True.
I'm sure if you do more research, you'll run into a video where a guy is saying, if it's not your keys, not your
Not your
currency,
wallets.
yeah,
Yeah. So
if
something like that.
your coin, not your coin,
Yep.
not your keys, something like that.
Something like
Uh,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So I want people to understand that don't just go jump on a random app and say, oh, you sell cryptocurrency, I'm gonna buy it because I'm
Mm-hmm.
used to it. Read the fine print. Make sure they give you access to your keys. Yep. And next, it's how am I positioning myself in the future?
Correct.
So I don't know about you, but one Bitcoin is a bit expensive. So I'm not buying one Bitcoin at a time. I'm using this method called dollar cost averaging.
Mm-hmm.
So I get paid twice a week. So every first and 15th, I take a certain percentage and I put it towards my investments, whether it's standard stocks or cryptocurrency.
Mhm.
That's just what I do. And I'm going to do that for the next 30, 40, 50 years. And I think that to become a good investor, to
Mhm.
become financially independent, or to just build your wealth, that is something that you have to do. And don't chase the lottery ticket, meaning, oh, I'm going to buy this asset here, I'm going to buy this Dogecoin, and it's going to shoot up to the moon, and I'm going to, make all my cash that way.
True.
You can't have that mindset if you're talking 30, 40 years. You have to start, okay, this is what we're doing today, this is what we're going to do tomorrow, and we're going to do this every every paycheck, every time you have, I guess, an excess of cash, or whenever you have your structure set up, you continue down that path.
Mhm.
That's my plan. I think that everyone should have their own plan, and yeah, and follow it as best as you can. And don't overestimate what you think you can do. What is it? How's it go? People overestimate what they can do
In one day,
one
something like
day.
that.
Yeah. Stick with your plan. That's the biggest thing. Develop a plan and stick with it. So
That is really good advice. Really good advice. My playbook is so similar to that. Again, one Bitcoin is so expensive right now,
yeah.
but again, dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging. It works like magic. 10 years down the road, you're gonna look back and you're gonna be glad you started today if you haven't started. Okay. If you've already started, thank God you did.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it for the video, guys. Robert, it's always a blessing to have you on there. Hopefully I'll see you for the next one.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.